Welcome to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I'm Stacy Jones, the founder of influencer marketing and branded content agency Hollywood Branded. This podcast provides brand marketers a learning platform for top experts to share their insights and knowledge on topics which make a direct impact on your business today. While it is impossible to be well-versed on every topic and strategy that can improve bottom-line results, my goal is to help you avoid making costly mistakes of time, energy, or money, whether you are doing a DIY approach or hiring an expert to help. Let's begin today's discussion.
Welcome to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. Here's your host, Stacy Jones.
Welcome to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I'm Stacy Jones. I'm so happy to be here with you all today and want to give a very warm welcome to filmmaker and director Justin Purser of Olio Creative. Justin has a tremendous background in writing music video treatments for such artists as Beyonce, Shakira, and Pink, and has also directed music videos for major record labels including Interscope, Warner Brothers, Capitol, Apple Music, and Sony, amongst so many others, for a wide range of A-list talent. Justin was one of the original creators and directors of Maker Studios that pioneered the multi-channel network YouTube-centric companies of today, where he helped create the model of how brands advertise utilizing YouTube and influencers. One of his brand-sponsored videos with Cosmopolitan Magazine and Nivea took #1 on the Ad Age viral charts, beating out top brands such as Nike, Pepsi, and Toyota. Recently, he directed the feature documentary And Two If by Sea, narrated by Daniel Tosh. Today, we're going to talk about successful brand integrations with music videos and influencers. We'll learn what has worked from Justin's experience, what could be avoided, and where other brands and filmmakers are missing the mark. Justin, welcome. Thank you again. You did a great job. And the reason I wanted to have you on this podcast is because now it's just you.
Yeah, just me.
You don't have to share it. It's all you.
I can talk about myself as much as I want.
You can. Yes. You have much as you'd like to talk about yourself.
Olio, yeah.
Okay. And is that yours or do you work there or is that?
Yeah, so that's funny because Olio, I own a part of it. I'm a part of it. I own a piece of it. It's a post house we started about a little over a year ago with a friend of mine, a colorist Marshall Plan, who's colored all my work. And like, I've known him forever since he was an assistant for Boleon at the Syndicate. And like, so he wanted to start his own company. So he reached out to me about helping him like do some like social marketing and like trolling and stuff like that. And then I just called him back about an hour later and was like, you know what, like, instead of just helping you, like, why don't, like, I'd like to own a piece of it. Cause I feel like we're in a renaissance period right now where like, whereas 10 years ago you were pigeonholed to, you were a director, you were a writer, you were a stylist, you did VFX, and you could only do these things and you couldn't do anything else or people thought it was weird. Like if you were a director, you couldn't be like a photographer too, or, I mean, you could do that, but you couldn't do like, there's certain things you couldn't cross over into. But now, not even just in entertainment, I feel like across the board of everything, like you're seeing people do things that they're not ever in their field and having success in it. And no one thinks it's weird. You know, I always use Jessica Alba as an example. Like if you would have said 15 years ago that she would own this company that makes, you know, natural diapers and like shampoos and stuff like that, and like it'd be this like almost $1 billion company, and she would be like the one of the owners and the people that started it, people would have been like, she's an actress who's like, you know, in these like, you know, in Sin City, like no, like, you know, but she does, and yet she can still go act too, and no one ever questions back and forth. So for me with Olio, it was like, yeah, it might be weird for a director to own part of a post house because obviously that's where other directors are coming in, you know, and it could be conflict of interest, but I got to the point where like I don't really have an ego. I don't care. I don't like, I'm happy when other directors make good stuff. And like, when we opened Olio, I reached out to every director friend I know and was like, hey, bring your work here. We'll make it work. You know, for color, for post, whatever. So that's, and it was sort of like my Maker Studios redemption. Cause we feel like the post world's gotten so, especially color grade. Color grade went from, you know, oh, you had to go telecine. Then when everything went digital, everyone's like, you don't even need a color artist. You can just do it yourself in Premiere. You know, you can do it in Final Cut. You don't really need to go do it now. But everyone finally realized like, wait, slapping a filter on does not work. Like you need not only necessarily the equipment, but you need the talent. You need the artist. And so, you know, Marshall's great, like amazing talent, you know, so, but we feel like the business itself got kind of stagnant, especially in commercials and music videos. Like, the model and the environment in which you work in. It's like these very like modern IKEA furnitured places, whatever. So we like, my idea was like, let's sort of like kind of recreate how the post world works a little bit, especially in the color model. And let's have some fun. Let's be disruptive, if that's such the key word du jour nowadays. But I was like, I feel like this is an easy target. I feel like we could do it. So we, that's kind of where we opened. That's where we started, and that's what we've been focused on the whole time.
That's awesome. So how did you, get involved, Justin, in production? Was this your passion? I think I read that you were doing a lot of surfing videos when you were growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up in Florida, and I grew up surfing as a child, as a kid, and then my friends who I surfed with ended up becoming some of the greatest surfers in the world. And even one of them that I was a little bit older than me, that I grew up around, is pretty much the greatest surfer of all time. And what happened is my parents went to Japan, and my dad on a business trip, and he bought this Sony Handycam. And at the time, like, nobody had video cameras. So it was this camera that wasn't in America or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I like it. So I started just filming my friends surfing. And at the time, this was way before iPhone and everything, so there wasn't a lot of cameras. So the fact that I could do that and we could go watch it was like blew people's minds. And that it was like the quality of that it was. We could just turn it on, plug it in, to the TV. So so I started just doing that. I started doing that more and more and more. And then as my friends got really, really good and started becoming, these amazing surfers, that's what I started doing. I just loved filming them. And I fell in love with it. And I never obviously could even reach the level that they were at. So I was like, this just makes sense. So started doing that. And then, like straight off, really young, like started making surf movies, and I started traveling with them and shooting them and, around the world. And then I did that. I started doing that really young. And then I went to film school, and then in Orlando, and then graduated and came back right to like making more surf movies. So, I interned on like the Steven Spielberg show and for this MTV show a bit, but I just went back to what I knew. I just had more knowledge, I guess. But anyways, after a while, as I got older, it just kind of like, it just didn't feel that creative anymore. And I wanted to do something different. So I'll never forget, I was sitting in my living room in Florida. I just got back from I'd gone on this surfing magazine trip to Barbados, and I hated it. I just was like, so sick of lugging camera gear in and out of foreign countries. And then, if you're the guy filming, you're on the beach when it's like, it's really hot, you're not out in the water. It's like you're sweating and everyone else is out getting really good waves, and you're just standing there like filming them. And like, I remember thinking, I was like, I got to do something different. I can't do this anymore. I'm burnt out. I want to try something different. And I'll never forget, Britney Spears' Baby One More Time came on MTV. And I just was like, I was eating my breakfast, my cereal, and I just like stared at it. And I was like, I don't know what this is, and I don't know how it works or how you do it, but that's what I want to do. So I just like had like an epiphany. And then from there, just sold my stuff, moved out to California, stayed with people I knew down in Newport Beach, and then came up to LA every day and just like went to production companies and handed my resume out, and just like, basically started from the bottom again. Like, how do I how do I get in this world? I don't know what it is or how it works, but I know these are the companies I've researched online that do music videos. And these are the ones that so I just basically went there. And then what ended up happening was there was an organization called the MVPA, which was the Music Video Production Association, sort of like the AICP of music videos. So I had emailed them and told them, hey, what I wanted to do. And one of the ladies there emailed me back. And so she just let me come in and meet with her, really nice. And then she was wearing like a Hurley shirt. And I was like, oh, do you like Hurley? She's like, oh, I love it. So like I left and I went and called Bob Hurley, and I was like, hey, Bob, can I come get some women's clothes and give it to this person? So Bob let me come to his warehouse, and like, because I've known him since I was a kid, he used to pay for me to travel for surf videos. Like, so I got a box of clothes and then brought it to her, and she was so happy. And she like helped me, like, she like introduced me to executive producers and like, oh, you should hire this guy. And so I started off at the bottom. I PA'd one video, and then I became an executive assistant. And then I just sort of like got to learn what a music video was, how it works, what's the dynamic, like who does what, what does a producer do? What does a director do? What does the DP do? What do all these people do on these music videos? How does it work with a record label? How does it work with an artist? Like, how does this all happen? So from the perspective I was at, I got to see it all. And and I thought I wanted to be a director, but I wasn't totally sure that I could even do it. I'm like, I don't even know if I could do this. How does this work? So, but luckily I got to be on set and learn from some of these, some of the greatest music video directors ever, and be around them. And as the more I got to learn and the more I got to watch and the more I got to understand it, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this. And my role grew, my position grew, and I started working with directors, started writing treatments for a lot of them, which was, being a part of that process was interesting because you learn what has to fit into a budget, like what you can do for this amount of money, and and also takes the artist's ideas. And then I think when I started writing treatments is kind of right when branding in video started to come into play, like Motorola and like a lot of some of the P. Diddy's vodka and like people like that, brands started putting money up to be in music videos. So then it was like, okay, we can do this video, but you have to write a car into it because Jeep is offering, an extra $50K towards the budget if there's a Jeep somewhere in it, but the artist doesn't want to drive the Jeep. So how do we put the Jeep in? So then, it's basically just like, it becomes Tetris. But that's how I got started. And then from there, I just, I went on and became a director myself. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you have done some phenomenal music videos, including one with Beyonce that you were instrumental in, I believe, for making it happen.
Yeah, I didn't direct that. That was Jake Nava.
Okay.
That was Single Ladies. That was basically, that was when I was writing treatments for Jake, with Jake, like that, the brief came in that he did a bunch of Beyonce videos, and the brief came in that there was 2 videos, If I Were a Boy and Single Ladies. And Single Ladies was like the throw-in video. They want to shoot them back to back, both black and white. And it was sort of like, let's just get Single Ladies knocked out too, because it'll be easy because she's available and we'll just knock it out in New York at the same time. But Beyonce just wants like a simple dance video. That's all she wants to do is dance. And so, but Jake, of course, being an artist and a director, he wanted to do something a little different, not just, film her on a stage dancing. So he, was telling me, he's like, I don't know what to do. What can we come up with? And I had showed him this video like a couple weeks ago prior. And it was this hip hop song called Walk It Out. And someone had taken a Bob Fosse dance routine and they had put the Bob Fosse from the 60s dance routine with the girls with the beehive hair. And they had put this hip hop song Walk It Out. They had put it under the girls dancing and it worked. And it honestly looked like that Bob Fosse choreographed these women to this song. I'd showed Jake that and he was like, what was that video you showed me? And I was like, oh yeah. Then I pulled it up again and I watched it. We're on the phone. I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. And he was like, here, send it to me. So I sent it to him. He sent it to Beyonce. It's like, let's do this. And then, next thing, she did it, basically recreated that video, the Bob Fosse, even there's like a little ramp on the side of the cyc and you can see her go up and down and to the T, that was the Bob Fosse. And then that video just went up, obviously went on to just be like probably one of the first like viral phenomenon videos that just like took off out of nowhere that, nobody, especially from the time of it being shot, everyone, it was a great video, but no one ever thought this thing's going to be what it became. It just went massive. And so, and then that being like the throw-in video, and then it just became iconic and just, so that's kind of led me to be a director because that was like, I felt like, okay, this is my chance to jump because a lot of people at the record labels, like it got word that like, oh, Justin had that's a video that Justin had found, and then they kind of just recreated it. And it also became like kind of like my interest in YouTube because it was like, wow, a lot of the reason that video took off in the beginning is people recognized that was the Bob Fosse Mash It Up video that had been on YouTube. People recognized that. So they
you have a cat.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wait, my dog may like bark back at your cat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, so long story short, they, that video started to take off because people were in the comments were like, oh, this is the Walk It Out video that she remade or whatever. So that kind of gave it its first like initial push. And then once it got that push, then it just took off. So yeah.
And so you mentioned a minute ago, part of what you were learning and you were watching when you were learning all about music videos and how they were created is watching how brands got involved in them. And that artists don't necessarily always want to deal with the brand that's there to help pay for the music video.
Yeah.
Shockingly, surprise right there.
Yeah.
And that y'all have to do Tetris and be really creative. Are there certain brands that you think lend themselves better to music videos than other types of brands?
I think nowadays it could almost be any brand, but depending on the artist and what the artist is willing to do, I mean, you could tailor the video to the brand and make it, because the rules of music videos I mean, they're still there, but people do some things now that aren't really even what traditional music video would be. So there's all kinds of things you could do. I think it just depends on how creative you are, how creative you can get, and how willing the artist is to be open to it. But it's always a. I mean, I remember even my own as a director, like like Pepsi's going to put in X amount of money. The artist doesn't like they don't like what Pepsi wants to do, but Pepsi wants them to do this, what else? And then you just spend hours racking your brain, and then you pitch these ideas. They're like, no, that she won't do that. She won't do that. Like, and then Pepsi's like, well, and then, but she will do this. And then Pepsi's like, no, that's not good enough for us for this money. And then, then sometimes it's like almost like it's almost like a hostage negotiation. It just goes and the money gets taken off. Now it's like, okay, now we have less money, but now we have the same idea. We just don't have that extra element. So now what do we do? Because now we can't make it work. So, so I don't know. I think it's just, I think it's, obviously there's been some organic, brands, of course, like, obviously like in hip hop, if there's some sort of vodka, not vodka, but alcohol brand that can work if that's what they want. If they want a club scene, which is pretty standard, like obviously high-end cars do well, like in like, videos. But then again, nowadays, like with indie artists and stuff, like, I don't know, like it's like everything's become so real. It's funny. YouTube came in, and these real life people who just were just regular people, they influenced the whole zeitgeist, where now it's like, they drove a Toyota, Prius, and now like some music artists are like, I don't care if it's a Toyota Prius, like I drive that anyways. Like, I'm not trying to like look like I'm like rich and famous. I'm just trying to be like everybody else. So, and honestly, that's what we learned during that period, was that's more appealing in a way. A lot of people it's more relatable. They're like, oh wait, that the person in this video is driving a Toyota Prius. That's what I drive. I like them, so
versus the Bentley or Ferrari or Maserati, which everyone for so many years wanted.
Yeah. So you want it, but I don't know. So I think there became like this. So I think the music videos, especially, like it really just depends. Artist, song, and then brand. But yeah, I mean, of course, obviously like headphones, or if there's like guitar, brand, obviously stuff like that's easy, especially, but as far as like, your off brands, like, like a Pepsi, or like I don't even know, like like milk or something. I don't know. You get some strange, I'm sure, there's some strange brands that like, they want to get in the mix, and you're like, this is going to be really hard because it's such an off, like, it's not an easy fit. It's not just like, yeah, we can throw headphones on this guy, Yeah,
there's like apps, a lot of apps are interested in music videos, especially those trying to hit that tween teen, young millennial. That comes in a lot.
Yeah.
You see clothing, clothing can be great if it's branded.
Yeah.
If it's not branded, it's really hard to tell what it is. Eyewear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the clothing's tough because, if it's, you're not really allowed to, logos are not supposed to be shown. I mean, that rule's obviously changed since MTV is not in power anymore. But
well, no, Vivo still has the limitation. They don't want more than like 4 to 6 continuous seconds of a logo shot.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, at least they let them. MTV was like, no logo.
Yeah.
No logo at all. The video would get rejected. So yeah, at least they do that. But yeah, no, of course they still have some rules, because then at that point, I get the rule, because at that point you're just making a commercial for a clothing company, and then they're putting it up on their platform, basically almost for free, since you're getting rev share off of it. So yeah. So yeah.
So do you think, before we move on to like other things, because there's lots of things that you've done in your career that are fantastic, but with music videos, do you think there's a best way that brands should be approaching music videos and to look at partnerships with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think they should target they should start with a list of artists that they specifically feel like they want their brand in front of, and then go from there. Find out what label they're on, and then go approach the label and I think the most important thing for a brand is they have to be pretty open to what the artist is going to want to do if they really want to be a part of it. So yeah, I think you work that way, like, and just, yeah, like find the type of music, the type of artists, the artists that you like, wish list, like this is the top wish list. And then, there's the amount of music artists out there now is like incredible. Like it's like massive. So, even if you can't get to that artist you want, there's probably another similar artist that you necessarily might not know that the record label, would want your brand in. And sometimes, you focus on the big artists, of course, because that's what you figure that's the home run. But for me, I always look at things like, don't always try to get the home run. Just try to maybe make some bases at the beginning. Even as a director, of music videos, like it was like, you get these artists that want to, like, it's their first video and they have these grandiose ideas, and like even like the pop star artist, the young female, she like wants to like pretty much be naked in the video, and I'd always say no. I'd be like, you do that, what do you have left?
Right.
Like,
right, you've jumped the shark.
Yeah, if you're giving it all away in your first video, like, don't look at it like this is going to be my first and last video. Look at it like, I'm going to put this one out that's going to lead to a lot more. But if I give it all away today, then what do you have tomorrow? Yeah. So you got to, look for a longer story, not just like everyone tries to just make that home run. So I feel like brands try to do that too. They try to, like, we're going to put everything we got into this one artist video, like maybe put a little bit into a few different artists. Like, it's almost like maybe look at it like playing roulette.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I think also with a lot of brands, there's not a lot of control that you can have. You can ask for, you can make suggestions, but this is so driven by the artist and the director, and you have to make sure that it looks organic. Yeah. Because if it looks staged, people are just going to revolt from the music video, and then everyone gets negativity.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, and like I think we talked about on the panel is the difference is these videos now live online on Vivo YouTube, and not only do you couldn't hear the person yelling at the TV in their house saying how bad they hate that commercial that plays over and over again. Now you can read in the comments how bad things are going with the brand. You're talking about doing apps. That's cutting to an app, like having to try to explain an app in a music video. There's is almost impossible to be organic. Everyone, and because people have gotten so savvy too, they're going to automatically know like why this app is being displayed. Like now he's swiping over here and he's clicking here, and it's like it's just and as a director, like when you get those treatments and like this the label has this money from the app and that you got to include this app. That's a real puzzle piece, because then you got to think, how do I do this and it not be cheesy? Because then it's, I don't want to make a cheesy video. The artist doesn't want to make a cheesy video, and the brand doesn't want to make a cheesy video. But how do we do it?
Right. And it's a catch-22 because there's just not enough money from labels anymore to make music videos for artists.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's true. What happened is a lot of people don't realize this. So what happened is the music video went from a 100% promotional piece. It was a commercial. It came out of marketing budgets. That's where the money came from. It still sort of does in a sense, but what happened is when, YouTube and then especially when Vivo, now the music video is part of the business plan because they make money. The artists make money on these videos. I can look at the view count and kind of guesstimate how much they've made and go, wow, oh, that was the budget, and then this is what they made, So, and what's funny is when that happens, when it goes from marketing to part of the business revenue model is, the idea is spend as little money as you can so you can make the most money. So instead of budgets going up, they went down, partly because the record labels lost a lot of money, but also because they needed to make money on these videos because they're not making money on the music as much anymore. So they got to 360 it, like touring, so the music video is now part of that revenue stream for an artist. So that's, and so that's when, now, they need supplement. They need, if they can supplement it with some, in-kind funds from a brand, and, that money doesn't have to be paid back, and they can still spit and they can make the video look better. Of course, they're going to try to do it, but it's always quite difficult.
Well, moving away from music videos, you ended up playing a massive role in really how a lot of influencers, especially with YouTube, did brand deals. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you got involved in that whole world that is now everyone looks at and is like, you're an influencer. This is a crazy business model.
Yeah. Yes, so that was pretty crazy because that was right when music videos, the budgets really went down. That's almost like right when I got into it. As a director, they started really tanking. And I'd spent 8 years trying to get into this party, and I finally made it in the party. And I always tell people this, I'm like, I've made it in the party. It's been 8 years outside, like, like looking at it, seeing inside, like I knew everybody inside. They're all having a good time. And I'm like, I want to be in that party. I want in that party. And I feel like I made the leap. I became a director. And as soon as I did it, they were like, party's over, everybody out. The budget's just, they went down like 90%, like the average budget. And it was, it became something, it wasn't what I signed up for. And it was sort of like very difficult to wrap your head around, like, especially having written treatments for these directors for these, like $500,000 videos, $1 million video, $650,000 video, and then trying to like wrap your head around, like, how do I write for a $20,000 video? How do you do that? And you can do it a few times. I did it, because I had a lot of favors I could call in, but you can only call in favors for so long, and then people won't do the favors anymore. So, again, I was trying to think what else is out there. Didn't really know what I would do. I was like, this is what I moved out here for. This is what I want to do. I'm just going to keep doing it, but I don't know how long this is going to last. And I don't know what the future looks like, but for this business, but companies were closing, record labels, like the commissioners were getting video commissioners getting laid off, and their assistants getting hired. And like, it was such a crazy time. You turn a treatment in, and then they'd be like, oh, that person's not even here anymore. So-and-so is going to look at it. For the moment, you're like, I don't even know who that is. Like, at least I knew the other person and they knew me, so I had a better chance. So anyways, I just kind of stumbled upon, it was actually a receptionist that the last company I worked on staff was Anonymous Content. And the receptionist there, Denise Cass, she had started uploading just videos of herself talking to YouTube. And we were Facebook friends, and I'd obviously friends with her from Anonymous. And, I would see her post them, and and I just didn't really understand what she was doing or why, but she's just doing it. And so one day she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I'm going to write this spoof music video for this Akon and David Guetta song. It was called Sexy Bitch. And she's like, I'm going to call it Bearded Bitch or Bearded Guy or something like that. I can't remember now. It's a while ago. But she's like, yeah, and I have this friend. He does a lot of stuff on YouTube, and he's got a big beard. So he's going to play the girl. Like, he's going to play the sexy. It's going to be funny. So she's like, would you want to direct it? And I was,
you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't doing anything. I was at home, like writing treatments and trying to book music videos and like living off unemployment. So I'm like, sure. It was like, like on a Tuesday or something. She's like, yeah, here's the address in the Valley. I just had to show up. And she's like, yes, there'll be like a guy there with a camera. You can just help us make it. You be the director. I'm like, okay, that'll be, whatever. I have nothing else to do. So I show up, and it's this kid's house, and like, he's like maybe 18, and he owns the house. And his name's Shane Dawson. And she's like, yeah, his name's Shane. He does YouTube stuff. And she's like, oh, and this is Justine. Her name's iJustine on YouTube. She does video stuff. And this is Shay Carl. And then I recognized the guy who'd done the Obama video, like who played
right.
Obama. So he was there. And I'm like, oh, I know who that guy is. Why is he here? Like, oh, these are all big YouTube people. I'm like, cool, whatever that means. I have no idea what that means, but like, awesome. So let's do this. So we did it, and it was funny, and they were all like very like socially awkward, but it was really fun. Like, they're really cool, and they're fun, and they're so like just like normal people, like, and like,
right.
And and I'm just like, it was fun. So we did it, and then a couple weeks later, she was like, oh, do you want to come by and see the edit? And I was like, sure. So I came by and I saw it, and I was like, oh, it came out pretty funny. Like, it was, obviously super lo-fi. Right. No budget. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't put this on my reel. But it's funny, whatever. Yeah. She's like, do you want your name on it? I'm like, yeah, I don't care, whatever, put my name on it. So about a few days later, I check on YouTube to see, after they uploaded it. And I think at the time it had like almost 1 million views, when this is like 2011, when like videos didn't get that kind of views, there wasn't that many people using YouTube. So I was like, whoa, what's going on here? How is this working? So I call her and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? How are you getting views? Like, everyone's trying to get views now. How did you do this on this spoof? It's like, everyone in that's a huge YouTube star, and they all pushed from their channels to this video. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm kind of interested. And I'm like, what do these people do? Like Shay Carl, the guy with the beard, was the main guy. I'm like, I looked at his channel, and it's like him and his 4 kids, and he has a house in Venice that he's renting, and like all day long, he's just making videos every day of himself, like 15 minutes long, him talking to the camera, like hey guys, here I am at the store. I'm buying more diapers because so-and-so, ran out of diapers. And, and I'm just like, wow, what is this? And how does it have 350,000 views in 2 days? And so I asked her, I'm like, well, how does he support his family? And she's like, oh, off YouTube. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, he's making like $300,000 a year right now. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like trying to, live off unemployment, do a $20,000 music video so I can make almost maybe $2,000 if I'm lucky, and this guy's making this kind of money with flip camera and an iMovie. And I was like, well, if you can't beat him, join him. So first I was definitely angry because I was definitely angry at these people. But then I was like, if you can't beat him, join him. So I kind of, I was like, I want to meet all these people. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what this is going on here. And the more I looked and the more I looked and the more I just kept, understanding and looking at what they were doing, I was like, oh, they're going to take over Hollywood. They're going to influence the zeitgeist because they have an audience. And at the time, people still had this manner of like, oh, you have to make this amazing, wonderful, gigantic content for people to watch it. That's what everybody wants to watch. They want to watch the biggest, brightest piece of content they can watch. It needs to be all the bells and whistles, everything. But these guys are just doing nothing. They're in their living room with a flip camera, and I was like, okay, you can say everything you want, but obviously the power of the people is speaking that this is who they want. This is what they want. And they want the realness. They don't want to be a fan. They want to be a friend. They want to feel like these people are their friends, and they do. They feel like they know these people. They feel like if this person walked into like a restaurant, they could walk right up to them and say their name and they would know exactly who they are. So I was like, this is going to change everything. So I met with like Danny Zappin and Lisa Nova and her brother Ben. There was like about 4 or 5 of them, and we were working out of this office in Venice. And they brought me in, and like I was sort of like the Hollywood person because I was the only one that had like done anything. I think Lisa had been on Mad TV for a couple of things, but like as far as like a director, creator, like I was like the only person that had any kind of experience. They had some kids there with some cameras who were doing stuff, and and then we just kept building it. It grew so fast. And it's one of those, I think we all have these moments in life where you don't realize when you're in it, what's happening until after it's over. And then you look back and go like, wow, that was insane. That was crazy. Like, I don't even know what happened. Like what happened? Like that was insane. Like it just, everything kept, like growing. The numbers were growing. Like they were signing more talent. Like I was bringing in talent, like people to sign, and like it just kept growing and growing. And then we kept moving offices and moving into like, and bigger offices. And, and then we, big agents at CAA would email the website, and they'd be like, do you know who this agent is? And I'd be like, yeah, I know who that is. And they'd be like, should I respond? I'm like, no, don't respond. Like, let's keep it us, let's keep it small. Let's just keep building the frenzy, because everyone wanted to know, like, how are you doing this? How is this happening? Yeah. But on the other hand, a lot of people didn't care. Like I would go out to Hollywood, functions or parties, and people were like, what are you up to? And I'd be like, oh, I'm still directing music videos, but I also part of this company we started. It's called Maker Studios. And they're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's like YouTube. We have like YouTube celebrities and like, and they'd be like, they'd write it off. They didn't care. They'd be like, oh, whatever. Like it's just guys with flip cameras. They'd talking to the camera. They didn't care. They didn't think it was anything. But then, with that, anytime you get an audience like that and those numbers, of course, now brands want to get in front of every audience they can. If there's an audience, they want to get in front of it because that's what you want to do as a brand. So, I started sort of just testing the waters a little bit. Like, I had a friend who worked at, Andrea, who worked at Planet Hollywood, who I had met. And, I talked to her about what I was doing, and she had seen some of it, and she got it. Like, she was one of the first people that got it. She was like, wow, like, and as a hotel in Las Vegas, like, if I can get these people to like do something, for this hotel, like this could be huge. So it was like 2010, I think, maybe 11, something like that. We did we had this idea to do a flash mob in their casino. And that was when flash mobs, everyone was doing flash mobs, it's like before it just got to the point where it's like, nobody wants to see more flash mobs, but like it hadn't been too saturated yet. So we did this flash mob. I actually had these Grammy nominated producers make a song in like 3 days about the hotel. And we staged it to look like the hotel had nothing to do with it. And we did a flash mob with like 10 of the biggest YouTube celebrities at the time. And then everyone we invited, we had like 100 and something people in the middle of their casino, which is pretty taboo for to do. So We made it look like they staged it. And it went nuts. Like it was insane. Like at the time, like the hotel like was for sale, and Robert Earl, who owned the hotel, like the value went up because the like everyone wanted to go stay there. The song was called Famous, PH Famous, for Planet Hollywood. And like the song became a hit. We ended up shooting a music video for the song that the hotel paid for that ended up being on MTV. It had Chanel West Coast sang on the song.
Right.
The producers knew her and they had her come sing the hook. And like, it became its own thing. It was crazy. Like Shay Carl, like who was one of the guys he was like the main guy we made look like he staged it. They gave us all suites when he went there to shoot it. He went in his room with his flip camera and was like, filmed the whole suite and was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've never stayed in a room like this before. And I don't know, maybe to today, maybe it's gone now, but I know up until like a year or two ago, if you Googled best hotel room in Vegas, his YouTube video was the first thing that came up.
Wow. It just had so many views that got pushed up.
Yeah. And so anytime anyone around the world was going to Las Vegas and Googled best hotel room in Las Vegas, that room came up his video, which was like, I mean, you could, as a business, as a brand, like,
you couldn't buy that.
You can't buy that. And it was totally organic. And I'll never forget, this is like, I think one of the craziest things ever that sort of made it all very surreal was I'll never forget, I would go to the hotel a lot afterwards because they gave me, I could go whenever I want and stay for free. So I went and I was there one weekend, like I think it was like 3 or 4 months later, and I got in the hotel. I got in the elevator, and these two British guys were talking about that video, the best hotel room in Vegas. They're like, we got it. We got the best hotel room in Vegas. And they're like high-fiving, and they like pulled up the video on their phone in the elevator. And I was like, I thought I was being like punked. I was like, is this real? Like, this is real? Like, and they're like, let's do the flash mob in the casino. And I was like, wow. And that's when it really like all kind of came together. Like these guys have a lot of power, and there's an audience, and there's a lot of brands and power that are going to want to get in front of it. And then it went from there to like, we started getting all kinds of brands. And then I did the video for Cosmo magazine, which we actually shot at Planet Hollywood. Same thing. It's so funny how brands want to do exactly what another brand did.
Right. Because it was successful, right?
Yeah.
And they can't think outside that box necessarily.
Yeah, they were like, let's do a flash mob in Planet Hollywood, but for Cosmo magazine and Nivea. And I was like, okay, I think we need to do something a little different. So I was able to sell them on an idea of like, kind of like this like growing music video, like kind of like it kind of just organically came into a flash mob, but not like way more, not as like staging it to be fake. This was actually going to be fake. We're going to make it fake and on purpose. So we did that, and that took #1 on Ad Age. And then it was from there on out, it was just like, it was gangbusters. It was like, I think every agency like took notice, and they didn't know who that was. They were like, Maker Studios. What is Maker Studios? And how did they just beat, this ad that we spent $2 million on that has Snoop and a lightsaber and a Toyota, or whatever it was, like, Pepsi, or how did they get the views? And then it just was like, the phones went off the hook, Time Warner invested, and then it was on. And I feel like that's the moment the whole zeitgeist changed of like, because once the money starts pointing your way, now everyone wants to know why the money, especially in Hollywood, anytime money points your way, they want to know why that money's pointing your way, And
they want it. Yes, everyone wants to jump on.
Oh yeah, no, I got all kinds of offers. Like when Maker sold to Disney, I was no longer a part of Maker. I had left, but I woke up to like all kinds of offers of like, can you go out to dinner with this celebrity and tell them how this works? I had Oprah Winfrey's right-hand guy reach out and like want to know about like what this was and how it worked and stuff like that, not just through somebody else that knew him or whatever. And it was I got paid to consult them and stuff because it was like, people ignored it. And then when it happened, they were like, I want in.
Yeah. Well, because I've done this myself. Like I have sat there and stared for hours at like one YouTube channel for one influencer and just tried to wrap my head around what makes this guy magic, right? Because it is magic, but it's not tangible. You can't figure it out. It's just something, and not everyone has it.
Yeah, that's the funny part is when you tell everybody like, oh, and I knew this was going to happen. It actually didn't happen as bad as I thought, but I'm like, at the time, no one knew these people were making this kind of money. So I was like, I envisioned the world, I envisioned you couldn't walk down any sidewalk in America without someone talking to themselves, because everyone's going to be like, you can make $500,000 a year on YouTube. I'm in, and I'm going to record myself. But yeah, it isn't that easy because it does take a lot of work, and it's quantity over quality, and you have to just push. It's not going to happen overnight, and it might not happen at all because, like you just said, like some people, it's just magic. Like people just, for whatever reason, gravitate towards them. You know, like there's these guys that do these eating videos, you know, where they'll just eat tons and tons of food. And it's like, who would ever thought of that? You know, like that would be the thing. Or like ASMR, where like people just want to listen to people like chewing.
Right, chewing because it's soothing and it triggers different things psychologically for you.
Or if you would have told Disney and Nickelodeon like 15 years ago, like stop spending all this money on these big shows, like just have kids open boxes of toys and talk about them. And every kid will want to watch that. They would have laughed you out of the building and told you to leave. But like that's, you know, so
they're making millions of dollars doing that.
Oh yeah, no, I've hired some of these kids for campaigns and like to help push stuff, and I'm like, oh, yeah, the money they're making. You know, I'm curious how this all plays out as they get older, and because this is a strange world that we're living in that hasn't played the story yet. We haven't had the kid who grew up on YouTube turning, you know, 21 yet. So
no, the Kardashians are really kind of the most like this, I think, because they have been most under the limelight. And it's going to be really interesting to see because obviously, you know, it's the Kardashians, but there's so much of their elements of what they've done with social that you're seeing. It's a whole new level of, I'm going to say the word royalty, but it's escalated people into these fiefdoms and kingdoms that are not something that we've ever experienced before.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's and then, you know, you tie that in again, like brands, like they always want to be in front of the biggest audience. And so they, you know, these are the people like the Kardashians, like you know, their brand deals are incredible, obviously. Like, I mean, they don't even, I mean, I think the Jenner girls, like they barely do any because they don't have to, because the ones they do are so lucrative, you know? So it's like, they don't need to be pitching things left and right. So,
well, they've realized also that they don't need to be pitching anything anymore. They just need to pitch their own.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Way more valuable to pitch your own thing and make money from it.
Why pitch L'Oreal when you can make your own lipstick money off it? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a trend I think we're going to see more and more with these influencers who are all coming in and figuring out how they can actually be entrepreneurs. And now they can be the face of the campaign, the marketing behind the campaign, the brains of the campaign, and be completely self-sustained.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's, you know, and the self-sustained thing is pretty phenomenal as well. Like I've had, you know, some people at some pretty big like networks and platforms reach out to me and say, hey, you know, we want to hire these YouTube people to host shows for us, you know, and then they'll send me a list of who they want. And like, do you know them, or can you help us like, you know, get to them and speak their language? And could you maybe help facilitate and like, you know, be a part of making this work? And I'm like, they're not going to do it. And they're like, of course they're going to do it. We're so-and-so. And I'm like, they don't care. Like, what are you going to offer them? Money, they have it. An audience, they have it. It's not like hiring an actor. They don't need the role. They don't need it. They got like, exactly what you said. Like they're self-sustained. Like they don't need your money, and they don't need you to put them in front of anyone because they're getting it already. So, yeah.
But with that said, you said something a little bit ago that I think is going to be interesting to see how it continues to play out. You have like Lionsgate, right? And you have some studios who are actually creating content specifically starring the influencer, where the whole model now, it's not, oh, I need an A-list or a B-list. It's I need an influencer so they can be my marketing machine, which is a really interesting thing to actually see as a phenomenon.
It is interesting and quite difficult. I don't necessarily think anyone's, you know, maybe I'm forgetting some things, but I don't think it's well, first of all, it's never that easy. You just can't hire someone, you know, and put them in your film and they're gonna
have them act.
Yeah, have them act. Yeah, you know, it's the same thing sort of with the YouTube spaces. Like, you know, like that, you know, any YouTube person with over, I think at the time it was like, I don't know what it is now, but it was like 15,000 subscribers can use can sign up and use the massive soundstage. Like, why? They don't know why or how. They make videos in their bedroom. They don't need that stage. So it's like, you know, I've seen videos they've tried to make on there and they're horrible because it's like, that's not what they do. You know, they don't need to do that. So yeah, the hiring the influencer thing in your movies and in your, you know, for this, like, there's got to be a strategy to it. Like I spent a lot of years and especially when we started Maker, like, you know, having success and failure and like, and like learning like, okay, yeah, there's certain things you have to, and for me, everything starts in the creative. You know, like if you're just going to cast an influencer into a role that already exists, like your chances are low. If you're going to actually craft something that has some creativity built into it that builds around what they do and who they are perhaps, then yeah. And have a specific plan already in place, a creative like plan of marketing, literally before you start shooting whatever you're shooting, like you stand a better chance than just, I've gotten calls like, people like, hey, I put this video on YouTube. Can you, can you help me get some views on it? And I'm like, no, like you already did it. Like it's up, like there's no magic wand, you could buy them and fake it, but if, you can't just put something up and then expect someone to like get views on it, so it's, I think the influencer thing, it's going to level out a bit because I feel like there's been a lot of failure with it. A lot of success, not reach that they thought they were going to reach with it. For me, like when our strategy at Maker, we had a strategy and it worked every single time. And I still see to this day, like when they do cast influencers in movies and when they do cast them in commercials and stuff, I'm like, oh, they're not implementing a strategy like that. And that's why it's not going to work. But, and yeah, so kind of.
I think a lot of these influencers are used to playing their own self. They've developed their own personas. And so when they're being cast in these roles, which would be a traditional actor's role,
yeah,
they're not really up to that challenge because that's not what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
Well, it might be fun. It's not so much fun to watch.
You know what was a great one? I can't remember his name, but it was the it was a Netflix series. I can't remember. I'm probably gonna. It's about the kid who drew the mockumentary about drawing dicks on things at the school.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Oh man, it was great. It was on Netflix. It's a mockumentary. It's like an investigation of like this high school. Someone went out and drew penises on all the teachers' cars, and so it's like the students like they're trying to figure out who it is. But the main kid they blame, he's a YouTube star. And he was great. And the reason I thought he was great was he basically was doing not too dissimilar from what he does on YouTube. So,
I'm Googling, American Vandal?
American Vandal, yeah. Yep,
yeah.
There it is, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. And that was to me, that was a successful use of, because everyone's like, oh, that's so-and-so from YouTube. And like, and again, it was just like, it was the perfect role for him.
Right.
And it was a mockumentary and it was sort of what he does on his channel. So it all sort of like blended quite well. And I think that was successful. The second season.
But that's kind of like a Jackass, right? That's kind of like that type of content, which parlays really well over to what this influencer probably was in his real life.
Yeah,
and then now you have it on like MTV style, like punks in your face, Jackass, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a scripted like thing, but it was very, it still fit with his brand and what he did on YouTube. So yeah. And he was great. His acting was great. And I think that was a success, but but you could tell they didn't just felt like they didn't, maybe I don't know, but it felt like they didn't just plug him in. It felt like maybe they wrote it and then thought of him and then sort of tailored it more towards him. So, yeah.
So right now, obviously brands are, they're changing their whole love of influencers to some degree, where it used to be, oh, I must be with the biggest influence to make the biggest bang. And they're kind of dialing it back and now looking for higher engagement and understanding that being with the biggest means spending a whole lot of money to not necessarily actually hit the niche audience that you're trying to go after. Mm-hmm. What do you think what's the future of influencer marketing and brand partnerships? Where do you think it's going to go?
I think it's exactly what you said. I think there's more power into hiring, you could go down to like a level of like, people that only have like 3,000 followers. And if you paid, if you paid 100, you paid 1,000 of them, some money, you could possibly have more effect than if you went to like that, 3 million followed influencer. Because to me, the more an influencer or even a celebrity, whoever pitches products, I feel like the more they pitch, the less their value should be.
Right, because it's become like a lack of authenticity, a lack of organicness. It's becoming, you're just a shellman, basically.
It's diluted, yeah. You're like, here's this, here's this. You're constantly pitching things. So when I put together campaigns, I always try to find, that person's great. Can we find someone else that hasn't recently pitched 10 different things? Because I think brands, they just get excited. They're like, oh, we got so-and-so. They have 20 million followers. It's going to be a home run. But when you start, everything's a numbers game, right? Everything in this world is a numbers game. So when you break down the numbers of like, yeah, they have 20 million followers. What's the percentage of those followers that are actually going to see it? Then what are the actual percentage of those followers that are actually going to resonate with the product? From then, what's the percentage that's going to actually buy it? You know, and if you have someone that's pitching a bunch of stuff, it's going to be less and less and less, because they're going to be like, this person's constantly pitching things, scrolling past. Okay. I'm subscribed, I'm following, but I don't even really care anymore because I'm sick of them pitching me stuff. I moved on. So yeah, I think I think it's going to become more like more distributed, like not just the big ones, because that doesn't necessarily always work. And then I also think it's going to become more like almost like casting a movie in a sense. Like you're going to want to spend a little time and thought into it. Like, you know, the same way like you would cast like a big feature. You'd want to like get the 10 headshots in front of you and
right.
go, you know, let's see what if, you know, and sort of like figure this out. You know, because rushing into it, like, and like I think we talked about this in the panel too, the automated thing never works. Like, you know, here we'll put this site up and then influencers can like, you know, pick what they want to do and then read what they want to read and then pitch the product. Like to me, that never works. Like I think we talked about it again, like you got to have the middleman. You got to have the person that's going to speak both the languages. I've done a lot of that too, where I've been hired to, you know, be the middleman. Like, okay, here's what the brand wants to do. Here's what the influencer wants to do. Like, how do we figure this out and make it work? So
because it's still a very in-person relationship, and you're not just saying, here's the 5 bullets, go out and do it. It's a conversation.
Yeah. Because the one thing people gotta remember, these self-made quote unquote influencer people, the reason people like them is because they know that person just did it themselves. And they like that fact. They like that the person is like, it could be them, you know, that's a lot of them, girls who look up to Instagram models. You look at them, they emulate it because they're like, I can, you know, post a pretty picture myself and steal a quote from somewhere, and maybe, you know, like maybe it can happen for me. You know, they don't necessarily think of these people as, you know, once they reach a certain level, of course, and it's like, oh my God, they're so cool, celebrity. But for the most part, they still have this mentality of like, you know, they could be my neighbor, and maybe it is my neighbor, you know? Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, but the brand's sitting here and asking these influencers to be the director, the producer, the writer, the actor, the editor, the stylist, just add in everything. That's all of those elements to it. And that's all part of what's going on here, as well as the overall visionary, because the brand can't be the visionary for this or it won't impact the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It has to be authentic to the influencer and to their content. You can't hire someone that does like horror type content to pitch something that you want to be like, you know, fluffy and rainbows or whatever. I mean, you just gotta be really creative with it.
Yeah, you throw in the cats and dogs, they're not going to be like pretty cats and dogs in that scene.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah. I'll never forget one time it was a Snickers thing, and one of the maker talent, they wanted to I think they wanted to run it over with their car and stuff, and we were just like, no, I don't think that's gonna work. But they weren't trying to be rude or anything. They were just seriously excited about it. They're like, yeah, oh, we'll throw it out the window and then I'll drive it over my car and then I'll go and eat it off the ground. I'm like, I don't think that's what the brand's gonna really want. You know, so yeah, you know, that's the thing. You're speaking 2 different languages, so you need a translator. Yep.
And that's what we all do. That's what makes it all work, so that deals actually go through and look good.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, I know we're running out of time. Are there any last parting words of advice to our listeners that you would like to share today?
On the subject of?
Brands, influencers, music, creativity, anything you'd like.
Okay. Well, yeah, on that thing, I would go back to something I said earlier, which is that, you know, I think everything starts in the creative. Like you can't come in at, you know, the production point or, you know, post-production point and plug things in. Like if you're going to do it and you want to do it, you might as well start at the very beginning and build I do this almost in everything I do now, even all the projects I direct. Like I always think, what's inside of this project that I can know that I can count on for at least this much, you know, this many people are going to watch it. What's in this, what's the audience for this? What's the audience for this? Like, so that it's built already in, so that once the product or the content or movie, music video, whatever is out, you could tap that audience. Like it's because, you know, say it was, I don't know. Yeah. Like exotic cars. Let's just use that. Like, so like, okay, if I put an exotic car, I know there's an exotic car audience out there. So we can put this video out or whatever it is. And then we can go on like Facebook. Someone could go on a Facebook exotic car groups and say, hey, check this out. Here's a video with this super exotic car, you know, like things like that. Like, but you know, so I think for me, everything always begins in the creative. Like you have to start in that process. So that would be any advice I would give.
Well, that is excellent advice. So if our listeners want to be able to reach out to you, how can they best find you besides the information that we will put in our show notes? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm everywhere, right?
Yeah.
What else? I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, on Facebook. They can, reach my website. You can reach out to everything.
And you guys produce commercial content at Olio.
Oh yeah, Olio, yeah. We actually don't produce it. We post-production. So
Post-production, yes.
Yeah, mainly just Marshall as a color artist right now. And I'm sort of the creative director of the company. I'm helping with the marketing and the advertising and just you know, again, try to take a different approach to how that model works. So we call ourselves, we're not a post house, we're a post home.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
Well, Justin, I cannot thank you enough for being on today and sharing everything and all of your stories. You have led and are still leading a fascinating life. So
Wait, can I plug one thing?
You can.
My feature documentary, And Two If I See, is playing, its LA premiere June 18th at the Cinemark in at the Howard Hughes Center at the Silicon Beach Festival. So I would love for people to come out because that's something else. I had brand money for that, some in-kind money. And it's another project that I had full creative control over, and I built things into it that I knew we can use to market. So.
Yeah, and that was actually interesting because Justin, you know, we didn't even touch on this. You did something that's not so easy. You got brands to support a documentary. Mm-hmm. And so do you want to share a little bit more about your documentary and what's it about?
Sure. It's on a pair of identical twins, and it's kind of their story of their competitiveness between each other and sibling rivalry, because they also happen to be two of the most iconic professional surfers in the sport. I knew them since childhood. And they just had a fascinating life of just trying to compete, kind of each establish their own identity, but on a world stage where in a judge sport. So, you know, it's the friction drove their career, but then ripped their personal life apart. So it's a story we tell. Daniel Tosh of Tosh.0 narrates as an unreliable narrator. Again, something people told me I couldn't do. They're like, you can't have an unreliable narrator in a documentary, but I was like, I'm going to try it. And I did it, and it seems to work. People like it.
So what's that mean? Like, what is an unreliable? So
an unreliable narrator has been a part of literature forever. It's like Mark Twain did it. Forrest Gump was an unreliable narrator in the movie where he says things that aren't necessarily the truth. He tells the story in a manner that is more creative than like, here are the facts, you know, like here's where they were born, here's what we did, you know, he takes license to it. So, you know, in my movie, Daniel Tosh, he since the movie's about their identity, he'll mix them up on screen and then like, you know, converse with them. And then, you know, he brings, I wanted him to be a character in the film as well. So he brings himself into the character, into the film. It's not just him, like, you know, it's just a voice in the sky. So, so that's, I guess if I wanted to pitch something, that's what I would pitch. So, yeah.
That is great. Well, I am looking forward to watching it. It sounds
okay. Thank you. Come.
Quite interesting.
You come out. It's not far from where you live.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. We'll chat more about that.
Okay.
So, all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Marketing Mistakes and How to Avoid Them today. I will chat with you on our next podcast. Thank you.